Hello, my name is Charles. I'm a final year medical student. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the SJT.
Yeah, had a lot on my mind, this thoughts will render you blind. After I was on my knees praying they would be kind, I was scared to be alone, needed you.
The purpose of this video is to give you an introduction into the SJT, tell you of some resources that you can use to get you on your feet. This is not going to be an extensive video with all the top tips and everything you need to do. I think the best way to learn is to go and review the material and learn by practicing. I just thought I'd make something which had everything together that was a good starting point. So the SJT is the Situational Judgement Test. So it forms 50% of the mark that you use to get ranked and allocated jobs. The other one comes from your overall score and ranking from exams you've done at uni. Currently it also includes if you've done publications or if you have other degrees. As of 2022, it will just be your exam results from uni plus the SJT score. So this is a very important exam. It's high stakes, as you can tell. It's going to affect where you work, so you need to prepare for it, allocate plenty of time. As of 2020/2021, coronavirus was about, it made its debut. The SJT was held online via the Pearson VUE website. This brought about some changes. First and foremost, there was an introduction of a new section, which will be a scenario, and there'll be about 3, 4 to 5 questions that followed that scenario, where you'd have to pick one, either appropriate, somewhat inappropriate, or inappropriate. And this was the first time this sort of questioning had been introduced to this exam. Very few resources which have this, and there was also no official questions with answers to understand their logical reasoning, so that was very tough. It's almost like the UK CAT section, which is similar to this. Section B of the Pearson VUE paper was similar like to the old papers, where you get a scenario and then you select the 3 most appropriate out of 7. So it's top tips for that one. It's always choosing things which go together, and there's no point choosing 2 of the same things. Section 3 was a section where you get a scenario and then you have to rank 4 options in order of most appropriate to least appropriate. Top tip, rank the most appropriate and then rank the least appropriate, and then the 2 in the middle, you can fill them in. That way, at least you've guaranteed some marks. Now, the good thing about Section 2 and Section 3, there are resources that were available, such as the SJT official papers that got released. There were 2 sets of papers, both with answers, so you could revise for those. The best way to revise for this, I found, is starting off reading the GMC Good Medical Practice guidance that's provided by the GMC. Read that inside out, understand it. It covers all the core subheadings that you need to know about, such as teamwork, professionalism, all those good things. Make sure you read that, make sure you understand it. The GMC has other publications that you can also go on and read about if you want to. I just stuck to Good Medical Practice as I found the other ones harder to read. But if you have time and you understand them, definitely go through it. Other resources you can use, make sure you use some of your teachings that you've had throughout medical school on how to be professional, on professional practice. It will be very relevant, very useful. Apart from reading resources, the next best thing that you can do is just by practicing these questions. The first resource I used was Past Medicine. Past Medicine has questions that are in the format of the Section 2 and Section 3, so selecting the top 3 out of 7 and ranking things in order from most appropriate to least appropriate. Now, Past Medicine is good. They'll ask you a question, then they'll provide the relevant theories, so you can actually read into notes that are from the GMC Good Medical Practice or ethical pillars that are set out that you should know. That's why it's good. You actually apply the knowledge and you get to learn where you've gone wrong. Another resource is Oxford SJT book. That was very useful. The questions in there are actually a bit difficult on some of the sections compared to the actual exam. But once again, you read it through, it explains each section, explains what you should be doing in each section, what they're looking for. And also the answers are very good in that book as well. These 2 resources are good introduction for you to start getting your head around things if you're starting early. But when it comes closer to the time you want to move on to the official test papers, so the SJT official test papers, there are 2 papers, each with 70 questions each. Each of the papers have answers. Go through these papers at least twice if you have time. What happens is they set a question, board of examiners, doctors meet, and then they debate on which answers they would pick, they vote, and then these 2 practice papers encompass how these people think and what they're expecting you to answer the question like, because that's also the other name of the game, is answering the question how you would be expected to, not how you feel you would behave in a certain scenario. The final resource you have is the Pearson VUE paper, which has no answers. The best way to use this is collaboratively. Find a group of friends, work together through the paper so you can understand the paper and come up with some answers that you think might be correct, as there are no official answers. The top tip, start early, don't waste any time. Section 1, there are really no answers to that, and it's, you're just gonna have to work with some friends, come up with some answers, and just make sure all the theory you've read, you can back it up with the answer that you choose. But there's no way of referencing it with anything really, as there's no official resource with answers that's been released. Section 2 and Section 3, the other thing that you need to be aware of, they've introduced some scenarios where there are videos instead of being text. These will take up a little bit more time as opposed to the reading ones, so always allocate more time than you think you might need just in case. Time-pressured exam, it's a very time-pressured exam, but Section 1 can be very quick as it's a scenario. There's 5 questions that are related to the scenario. So provided you've read the question very well, you can get through that very quickly. But make sure you answer all questions, as it's not negatively marked even if you guess at the end when you're running out of time. Finally, another resource that might be useful just for you to get your bearings and understand this exam a little bit more, Geeky Medics have a little section on the SJT as well. That's very useful. If you have any questions or you're in doubt about anything, ask me in the comment section. I've included links to all the resources that I've mentioned to make your life easier so that you can hit the ground running and get those resources that you need to start preparing for your SJT. All right, all the best.
Yeah, had a lot on my mind, this thoughts will render you blind. After I was on my knees praying they would be kind, I was scared to be alone, needed you by my side. I'm from that old school kind of love, we ride or we die. If it's broke then we fix it, never ditch and depart. I was forced to make a change, baptism of fire. Car crashed but I made it, calling you through the wire. I reflect now on better days, wonder why I was astray. Fake stone with narrative but time gave it clarity. Been temperamental, now I'm stable on my own.